StraighTAllDay.com.
You're now tuned into the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day, to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you've expected to achieve has yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative. What is that? That is the go-getter energy that moves any one of us, including yourself, to go and make things happen instead of wait for things to happen. And then we put all this together into a series of frameworks, approaches, insights, strategies, and techniques, all underneath the umbrella of one unifying philosophy that is called work on your game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today's topic is, we are on part 5 of 5, the finale of our 5-part series here on the underlying drivers of fear. What are the things that actually create fear in people? And this is specific to the people who are in the marketing and sales world. How do you overcome these fears and move people to action? But before we get started, let me remind you all, I send out a text every day that's guaranteed to have you focused, sharp, and on point. I gave it a name. I call it the Daily Motivation. You want to receive this message. So here's all you got to do to get it. Text me at my number, 305-384-6894. Every day when the Daily Motivation text goes out, everyone who's in my text community, which will now include you, will be getting that message straight to your phone free of charge. Secondly, Work on Your Game University. People ask me, Dre, do you offer any kind of coaching? Is there any way that I could talk to you on a regular basis and just get help from you, or be able to share ideas with you and just get feedback from you, and just be around and be able to engage? And the answer is yes. And the only place to do that is inside of Work on Your Game University. You can get on a call with me or somebody on my team. We'll talk to you about where you're at, where you want to go, what you think you possibly need. And if we think we can help you, we'll make you an offer and tell you what it looks like and how it will work. And if not, we'll tell you that as well and send you elsewhere. But either way, if you want to work with me directly, the only place to do it is inside Work on Your Game University. The link to that and the number to get my daily motivation text are down below in the description to this video. Secondly, that's everything. Let's get into it. We are on, again, part 5 of 5, which is the underlying of the series, which is underlying drivers of fear. What are the things that actually keep people from doing anything, or keep people or cause people to do things that seem to be irrational, even if they actually commit to an action? So any of you who've seen somebody, or you are a person who right now is not doing something that you know you need to be doing, or you're doing something that you know you probably should not be doing, there may be a fear controlling that action. And I've laid them all out here in this series. Today, I'm going to give you the last 3. Let's get to it. Number 13, fear of loss of time. In other words, people who don't want to waste time, or at least they think they would be wasting time if they did or did not do something. So this fear is what's causing their circumstance. Now, this is one of the funny fears out here, the fear of loss of time, because people will often throw this out there as their subconscious minds and comfort zones fight to keep them in the same space when they are considering taking bold action. This is usually what happens anytime somebody throws out anything that is a masking for a fear. Very rarely does somebody just say, Dre, I don't want to do this because I'm afraid, even though that's the real reason why they're not doing something. But anytime a person is about to take some kind of action that is relatively bold and they're stepping out of their comfort zone, the comfort zone is not just going to let you do that, because the comfort zone is going to fight back. It's going to fight back by trying to scare you into staying where you are. It's going to scare you into continuing to do the same things that you've always done. It's not going to just let you walk out of there. The comfort zone will not let you walk out. It's like an abusive spouse. All right, you can't just walk out. All right, it's going to fight to keep you there. All right, literally fight to keep you there. And the subconscious mind is going to throw at you everything the comfort zone has in its arsenal to scare you back into the zone that you're comfortable with, even if the zone that you're comfortable with is fucked up and not what you want. Everybody understand me? See, the reason why this is a funny fear, this fear of wasted time, loss of time, is that people put this out there, even though most people are extremely cavalier about how they use their time. And I've already told you multiple times, I have emphasized this a lot over the last month or two on this very show, that human beings are notoriously lazy and slow and live on the default setting of doing things later rather than doing them now. That's just a common theme that I notice amongst human beings. I talk to a lot of different people from a lot of different worlds: athletes, entrepreneurs, corporate people, CEOs, managers, people who are trying to figure it out, students, males, females, young, old. I talk to people from all different walks of life. And a common theme that I know for sure, I can say this with full confidence, is that human beings are lazy and slow, and they live in the default setting of doing things later rather than doing them now. That applies to all of those groups that I just mentioned. This describes 90% of the population. But this same 90% that is lazy and slow and they do things late will talk about they don't want to waste time. How you've been wasting time your whole life. Now you don't want to waste time. Now you're urgent. Now that it's time to do something. Now all of a sudden you don't want to waste time. Really? People waste time every single day, don't even realize that they're wasting time. But then when they start to think about doing something different, one of their excuses is, well, I don't want to waste time. Like, mofo, you've been wasting time for the last 30 years. Now you want to get urgent. Now you want to get serious about time. See, while this fear that people throw out there is completely irrational, it is completely illogical. I just told you why it's irrational and illogical. Even though it is, it doesn't mean that you can ignore it. As a salesperson, you cannot ignore this, because if they throw this out there, you don't have an answer, then they just satisfy their excuse to do nothing, and also satisfy their excuse to not give you money, and therefore you don't make any money that day, and therefore you didn't do your job as a salesperson. So you cannot let this fear just go by. You can't just let this pass by like a cloud floating overhead. You got to address it. So the same 90% of people will say this, even though they always waste time. You must address it. And I hope you all noticing here in this series, this whole series. And I'm pointing out a lot of irrational and illogical things that people think, say, and do. Human beings are illogical and irrational, even though we all think we're very rational and very logical. No, we're not. We're the opposite. You cannot ignore or ridicule these illogical and irrational things that people throw out there, not at least if you plan on being a good salesperson. You have to treat everyone's fears and complaints and objections as legitimate, because they are legitimate to them. And that's the only world that really matters. It's not that you're selling something to somebody, the objective reality of what's true has very little to do with their decision-making process. Even though, again, every person thinks everything that they do is based on objective reality, when very little of what we do is based on objective reality, to be honest. Very little of what you do is based on anything that is objective or realistic. It's all based on how you decide to see it. And to you, that's your reality, but that is not reality, period. Those are two different things. All right, your truth and the truth are not the same. Everybody get what I'm saying here? So as a salesperson, you must get into the world of another person's truth, not the actual truth. You tell them about the actual truth, you might prove your point, but you're not going to make a sale. So what business are you in? Are you in a proving yourself right business, or are you in a making sales business? All right, hopefully you choose correctly. So you must address these things because you have accepted them as real to that person, even though they may be complete nonsense to you. All right. So while you're addressing it, all right, keep what you think about it. You think is nonsense, all right, keep that thought to yourself. Make the sale, and then you can think as much as you want. You can go home and complain to your dog about how irrational and illogical that person was, but how you made the sale anyway. All right. Let's remember what game we're in. Point number 14, excuse me. Today's topic, once again, we are talking about the underlying drivers of fear. Number 14, fear of looking foolish or stupid to yourself or others. In other words, it's the person who doesn't want to make a mistake because they think they're going to look bad. And it's not actually that they're going to look bad. Again, this is an irrational and illogical fear, because nobody else really cares how you look. Everyone's focused on how they look. It's they don't want to look bad to themselves because they think everybody else is paying attention to them, when everybody in the world thinks everybody else is looking at us. Nobody's looking at you, just like nobody's looking at me. Everybody's looking at themselves. Even when you're listening to my voice, you're using my voice as a go-between to talk to yourself. You're not really paying that much attention to me. You're paying attention to you. You're considering how you are absorbing what I'm saying. I'm just the canvas here. But it's not, you're not listening to this to think about me. You're listening to this to think about yourself. So when people think, well, I don't want to look bad, I don't want to look stupid, I don't want people to laugh at me or say things about me, whenever somebody says something like that, what you could objectively and rationally say to them, I don't suggest you say this, but depending on who you're talking to, there's some people you could say this to and they would accept it. I would say about 3% of the population. About 3% of the population, you could say to them what I just told you. Most people ain't thinking about you. You think they're thinking about you because you're thinking about you, but nobody else thinks about you at 10% as much as you think about you. Nobody does. Now, about 3% of people in the population, you could say that to, they would laugh and accept it and say, you know what, you're right. The other 97%, you got to treat this as legitimate and real, because they would not absorb if you told them what I just said. You just told them, look, most people ain't thinking about you at all. Everybody's thinking about themselves. As a matter of fact, nobody's thinking about you. If you told most people that, you would lose them, because they truly believe that everybody's talking and thinking about them, when the truth is nobody is. Okay, so now that you all know that, don't tell anybody I told you. This is connected to the fear of criticism and the fear of shame, and is more about the public display of what happens. That is really the public display that they're afraid of. It's not the actual outcome is the display of the outcome. See, if somebody makes a commitment and it becomes public note, now everybody knows about it. See, public note can mean just within their own community or family or industry. All right. They don't want to look bad in front of the people who know they have made a commitment. So somebody makes a commitment, I'm gonna go to the gym every day for the next 30 days, and then they don't go to the gym, and everybody in their community knows about it. Now they look like an asshole because they just said that. Now everybody's looking at them like, okay, well, we know not to trust this person because they can't even keep committing to themselves. So people will be afraid of messing up and looking bad in front of certain communities, which will lead them to, you know what, I don't even want to start in the first place because I don't want to get to the point of me not showing up and quitting on myself. I had people do this whole thing with me. I've had people say things like this to me in the past. They don't want to make a commitment because they've not committed or followed through in the past on a circumstance, and they think they're going to not follow through again. So they're basically coming up with their own excuse to an excuse before they even do something. And this is a habit. It's a habit of mediocrity. This is how people end up mediocre, by doing things like this. I've quit in the past, so I think I'm going to quit again. So you know what? Let me just quit up front. Let me just preemptively quit. so I don't even get in the situation of having to actually quit. This is what causes people to fail. This leads to mediocrity and failure. Actually, the person's already in failure, so they remain there by even letting these words come out of their mouths. So they had to be thinking it before they said it. So people will be afraid of messing up, so they'll rationalize that, you know what, maybe I just shouldn't even start in the first place. So I can never put myself in a line of fire. So I never can put myself in a position to fail. Let me just fail now, so then I don't have to fall from anywhere to fail. Let me just stay right here in failure, so it won't be a surprise when I wake up tomorrow and I fail. See, while you could easily rationalize that if they don't want to look stupid, they can just make sure they commit and do what it takes to make sure they succeed. You could easily say that to them. All right, well, you quit in the past on a personal trainer. You're thinking about hiring me as a trainer, and you're going to quit now because you don't want to not show up to me as a trainer. Well, how about you commit and just fucking show up? How about you do that? You can say that to them, maybe, depending on who you're talking to and depending on how you say it. That argument probably won't work with most people. I'll tell you that. You got to meet people where they are and get them to emotionally understand that doing the thing that you're offering is not as risky as it looks. That's what you actually had to do. Because again, you got to meet people where they are. If all you had to do to meet people where they were was just be rational and objective and logical, then everybody in the world would be rational, objective, and logical. And a lot of things in this life would be a whole lot different if that was the way everybody thought. When the truth is, that is the way that very few people think. So if you're one of the few who thinks like that, and I'm assuming some of you who listen to this are the type of person who thinks like this, because I think like that. That's the way that I think. It's the way that I communicate. So I would assume, because I talk like this, that I probably attract some people who think the same way that I think. Want you to keep in mind, most people do not think like us. So you cannot talk to people as if they're like you, because they probably aren't. If everybody was like you, then you could just give everybody you talk to your logical, objective, and rational ideas, and everyone would just suck up everything you say and agree with everything you say, and you would pretty much never have anybody disagree with you because you're just being logical, objective, and rational. But guess what? There are a bunch of people who disagree with you. Why? Because they ain't logical, they're not rational, and they're not objective. So keep in mind, you cannot talk to people like this. Most people ain't like this. So you got to know who you're talking to. Read the room. Okay, so you got to meet people where they are, get them to emotionally accept that whatever you're trying to get them to do is not as risky as it looks. Again, if you haven't noticed, folks, being a good salesperson is like being a good therapist. All right, you're giving people therapy, helping them understand that the decision you're trying to get them to make is not as bad or as scary as it looks. Point number 15. Today we're on point number 5 of 5, or not point 5, but part 5 of 5 of the underlying drivers of human fear. This is point number 15. Here's the bottom line of everything that I've shared so far. Here's the bottom line. All of these fears are real things. And when I say real, I mean they're real to the person who presents them. Not that they're actually real. They're actually not real. But actually, they're just figments of the imagination. But to that person, they're real. And there are legitimate reasons that people have for having them. All right, this is true. What you need to do is supply yourself with reasons to act in the face of fear, not reasons to act as if the fear does not exist. I'm talking to you now. So these fears that I've listed out here up to this point, sometimes these fears are afflicting you. Sometimes you're not doing something because of one of these fears. Anytime you're not doing something that you want to do, there's a fear in the way, guaranteed. Anytime you're doing something that you don't want to do, there's a fear in the way, guaranteed. So as a salesperson, and understand that you have to be a salesperson to yourself as well, you must have reasons to act even though you feel the fear. and not allow those same reasons to, and actually don't have reasons to act as if the fear doesn't exist. Notice the fear. All right. There's fear here because this. I'm giving you all the reasons why fear happens. So now that you identified the fear, do it anyway. That's your job. That's what I'm telling you to do with yourself. Okay. And the better you get at doing this, the more qualified you will be, and the more you can stand on telling somebody else to do it. Because if you can't do it yourself, then how can you tell somebody else to do it? You can't tell somebody else to get up on the third day and go to the gym and work out if you're not getting up on the third day, going to the gym and working out. So those reasons, you need to have reasons to go and do the thing anyway. Is your desire to do X stronger than your fear of Y? That's really the question that you have to answer. That's for you with yourself. If the answer is yes, you can take action. If your desire to lose weight is stronger than your dislike for the gym, then you can take action and go to the gym. See, as a salesperson, you have to get really good at reading the room, reading the people who you're talking to. I did a whole episode on reading the room. Let me refer you to that for any of you who might go and want to listen to it. That was episode number 2512, How to Read the Room. You must get good at identifying what type of person you are talking to or people you're talking to, what their reasoning and thought process is, and how to best communicate with them in a way that will help them understand that you understand. You got to communicate with them in a way that they know that you know, and then allow them to let you influence them to do what they know they want to do, but might be afraid to do. Everybody catch that? Was a long sentence there. Let me say it one more time to make sure you caught it. So you got to get good at identifying who you're talking to, their thought process, which is communicated through their words and you asking the right questions. And then you got to communicate with them in a way that will help them understand that you understand them. They got to believe that you understand them. And when they believe you understand them, this is what will happen. They will allow you to influence them to do what they know they want to do, but may be afraid to do. Your job is to get them over that fear threshold, but you have to gain their trust first. That requires you asking the right questions and actively listening. The better you get at that, the better influencer, the better you will be at persuading, and the more sales you will make. The better you'll be able to influence people's actions, whether in the sales room or out of the sales room or any other aspect of life. But you have to get good at reading the room, and you got to get good at asking the right questions. And you must be a very good communicator. Keeping in mind, folks, half of communication is listening, not speaking, listening. All that said, text me. Let me know. Did I recap these? Let me recap. I didn't recap. Let me recap. This class was the last part 5 of this 5-part series of underlying drivers of fear. Number 13, fear of loss of time. This is one of the funny fears because people waste time every single day, but all of a sudden want to get urgent about time when they want to make excuses. But even though it's illogical, it makes no sense. You must treat it as real and address this with people and show them how they will not lose time by doing your thing. They'll actually gain time. Number 14, fear of looking foolish or stupid. And this is really not about looking bad to other people. It's really about people looking bad to themselves because for the most part, nobody's really paying attention to any of us. We're all paying attention to ourselves, navel gazing. But you have to, again, treat this as real, even though it can be complete garbage. And number 15, bottom line is all these fears are real and there are legitimate reasons to have them for that person. They are not figments of imagination for that person. What you need are reasons to act in the face of fear for yourself. All right. Don't act like the fear doesn't exist. Identify the fear and then do it anyway. That's how you build courage, not by ignoring the fear. And as a salesperson, you got to get really good at reading the room. You got to understand why somebody feels how they feel. They had to understand that you understand. And when you get that, then they will allow you to influence them and allow you to move them to do what they know they need to do, but they have been, for whatever reason, afraid to do. You do that, you'll be a much more influential person who can persuade people to do pretty much anything you want them to do using it ethically. All that said, text me. Let me know you want to get the daily motivation message. Tell me the best point you got from today's class. My number is 305-384-6894. You'll be getting it every single day straight to your phone. Work on Your Game University. If you would like to be coached by me, you want to get access to our courses like Bulletproof Mindset, 30 Days Discipline, ASAP Confidence, Work on Your Game System, Content Machine, and more, 40 plus programs in there, go to workonyourgameuniversity.com. Work on your game. Dre all